7 o'clock straight up and down. Okay, people, welcome to our podcast tonight. Tonight, our guest is Terry. And Terry, I'm not even going to attempt your last name. How do you pronounce it?
It's pronounced Nwosuocha and is silent.
Okay. Okay. If you look in the chat box, you'll see his name printed there. It's got his phone number. It's got his email address, and we've got the address for their facility where you can go and see the light that we're going to be talking about. We also have his website located in chat on both Facebook and on Zoom. So one of the things that we're doing with all of our paranormal broadcasts is it's imperative that everybody be given the opportunity to talk, and that they not be interrupted, and that each person be able to express their ideas. Their ideas may not agree with our own beliefs. I know I have some beliefs that probably are weird to everybody else, and if they were in charge of the state health department, they'd probably send little men in white coats to pick me up. So, you can call me crazy if you want to. I know what I believe, and I know what my experiences have taught me. So what we're trying to do is discuss experiences, get ideas that we can exchange with each other, and talk about things that are happening and going on in our lives, and share that information and learn from each other and try to advance more rapidly with our learning. So if you're interested, tonight's subject is the Lucia Light. I myself have had several therapy sessions with it. Danny in our group is also on the podcast tonight. She has had several sessions, and we have 2 other members that have had sessions with Terry. So there are 4 of us that have experienced these things. We have talked about it in common. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the show over to Terry. Let him tell you a little bit about Lucia's Light, what its effects are, what its purpose is. So Terry, if you'll do that for us, we'll get started.
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on. When I saw your call come in across my caller ID, I was like, I wonder if this is, and it ends up being you, John. And so just great to reconnect. I know it's been a few years since you've been over, but just a quick background on the light. So it's called the Lucia number 3. It's a neurostimulator that's out of Austria. So it was invented by 2 Austrian scientists. One was a psychologist, the other's a neuroscientist, a neurologist. And they worked with clients to, work on a variety of different, therapies with their clients to, bring out, good intentions and good experiences for them. What they found was that, when you take light and you flash light in front of a patient's eyes, they tend to become more relaxed, more receptive, more emotive. So they went through a process of developing a series of different lamps that would, flash and flicker and kind of relax their clients so that they could express themselves in their therapy sessions. And so that's the genesis of the Lucia Light. So again, it's a neurostimulator. It's a light that basically operates on different frequencies, whether it's the brightness of the light, the frequency at which the light turns on and off, flickers and flashes, and then the frequency is as far as how fast and the rhythm of the light. All of that works together to create brain entrainment. So similar to what we can do with drumming, binaural beats, which is audio brain entrainment. Breathing, so you got holotropic breathing, you got Wim Hof's method of breathing. All of those serve to change our state of consciousness, right? And with the light, what it does is it entrains our mind down into the alpha and theta brainwave states. So when we're meditating, deep, transcendental meditation, you're down in those states and you're operating at those states from a baseline. And the light allows you to drop down into those states naturally and normally without the use of drugs, or what I call plant medicines, or, some of the other, ways of brain entrainment. So the light is really just a great way to drop down into that meditative state while also giving you a very nice psychedelic visual experience, which again, if it's dropping our minds down into those very relaxed states, then it's opening up some of the doors of perception for us. So we can actually take in more positive energy, more positive feelings, go about our days a little bit happier. And again, when your perception is opened and raised, then there's more that you can pick up. The good things in life, the paranormal things in life, perhaps, those all become more accessible to us as we, work on different states of consciousness.
Yeah. Well, what are some of the benefits that a person gets from doing these therapy sessions?
Sure. Number one is relaxation. So when clients come in, they tend to leave in a blissful state. So just fully relaxed after an hour of laying down under light with some great music. But it also works on your parasympathetic nervous system. So, as we sleep, we know that rest is good. And you fall down into that parasympathetic rebalancing, right? And so that's why we rest. That's why we meditate. It drops us down. So our baseline levels of stress are lower. We become more creative, more introspective, more emotionally balanced. So, through the light for myself, I find myself to be more emotionally balanced, more creative. And also, with anything that changes your state of consciousness, it changes your mind, and it makes your mind, I think, function at a higher level. So whether that's, issues at work, issues in your relationships, all those types of things, the more that you can kind of step back and allow your mind to, go quiet, so you can process things and think through things in different ways, literally change your mind. That's a huge benefit right there.
Well, these are things that you're mentioning are all things that we experienced and we discussed as a group afterwards. I mean, after we had a night's sleep after the session, we had our sessions, I think it was 8 or 9 o'clock at night. And then we would leave there and maybe have a bite to eat and go home. And we probably all went to bed about the time we got home. And then when we got up the next morning, we clearly noticed that we were more aware of things. Our thoughts were clearer. We seemed more motivated. We seemed to, we were changed, and it was noticeable. So we did enjoy that connection or the reprogramming of our minds to where the electrons flowed a little better or a little differently or something. But we definitely were seeing something different happen to us. And we enjoyed the experience, which is why we came. I don't remember how many times we came, 5, 6 times maybe, and until COVID hit. And then when COVID hit, we, of course, stopped coming because a lot of people were concerned about spreading COVID. And, of course, you had young children, too, and we didn't want to bring anything to your house either. So, these are all concerns. Now that we still have mixed feelings right now about it ourselves, because COVID hasn't totally gone away, but we don't seem to be having as bad a cases as we've had before, where so many people are, die from it or become extremely ill from it. It's not as potent as it used to be. Seems to have been reduced somewhat, though it does seem to be somewhat more contagious in ways.
Yeah.
So, nobody has decided to put a mask mandate back out or anything, or really raise health issues or anything. So I'm assuming that we're all kind of safe, or they would do that, but I don't know. I know all the government conspiracy people, they believe that, the government's got it in for us. So, I don't fit into that category. I've not looped into what all their beliefs are, but all I can go by is what seems to be common sense. And since I'm a volunteer with the Red Cross is pretty conscientious about what happens to our volunteers when we are sent to different places. So I try to follow their guidelines as to what they lay out for their disaster people, since I work in the disaster group a lot. So that's kind of where I come from. Now, you might tell us a little more about the light. The outer lights are LEDs that are very bright. Now, I did put in my Facebook page a link to the story where the psychologist and the doctor are talking about the light, and they actually start off with a little scene with light flashing in somebody's face.
Yeah.
Now, in the case where we came to your location, it was done a little differently, and it can be done differently. In some cases, they've got what they're showing on the websites as a single sofa with a light right there in front of the patient. And that's a single person. Now, in the case where we did it all of us lying on the floor, which now I'll be 78 tomorrow, everybody. So you can wish me a happy birthday tomorrow. But anyway, getting up and down off the floor may be a little more difficult, or starting to get to be more difficult for me. But at least under the one we did with you, we were 4 of us head to head underneath the tripod with a light hanging from above, and it was over all our faces. And the music that you play is computer generated, is that correct?
No, the music I played is it's not computer generated. It's a 3D soundscape. It's actually a group out of Austria that it's a fully immersive, sensory, vision that kind of takes you out of the physical space, while you're under the light. So, but yeah, very unique. Mm-hmm.
Well, I know that the music was very key to it. So there's audio effects, there's light effects and stuff and all that going on. And of course, you've got your eyes closed, and the patterns that the light is playing on your face is certainly kind of stimulating. And I think that's a large part of what happens to your mind is, that those patterns on your eyelids that you're looking at are what alter your mental state so much. Of course, the music helps. There's no question about the music, and I know that you were very careful in the music that you selected and played. So, I don't know how critical that music is.
Yeah. Music is a very subjective thing for a lot of people. So especially being in this field where you're interacting with a lot of different people with a lot of different tastes of music, you learn through time. It's been 7 years for me now, so you learn through time to cultivate the music. I always try and do a good job of asking ahead of time what people tend to relax to, what they appreciate. But the key of it is something that's going to be non-lyrical. So, if you're hearing lyrics, your mind is automatically just going to key into those lyrics as opposed to just settling down into, empty space. So the music is very key. You want something that's going to allow either high energy to match the light session, if someone wants a very psychedelic, very high energy session, or if they want something a little bit more subdued, more hypnotic, then we go with a slower pace. Again, we're trying to match the frequency so they can kind of, rest or enhance on each other. So the music is key. But also for the individual travelers, you might have a group of people that, if they've got something like anxiety or depression, you don't want to give them a very high energy, very rapid session because it's going to make them tight and even more anxious. So we slow it down. We go with more soothing music and more, lower frequency items so that they can gradually through time build up, their tolerance, and actually allows them to come out of some of that anxiety and some of that depression. But you mentioned before, just with the lights flashing and coming over your face. So what that's doing within our minds. So with our eyes closed, our eyes can still receive light. This is it's an ancient practice. The Egyptians practiced it. It goes way back. You can find it through time, but we have these receptors that receive light, and our minds try to make sense of the light that's coming in, even though our eyes are closed. And they say that the pineal gland is the place that processes that information. Pineal gland, regulates our circadian rhythm, has influence in our sleep. So when you're going in, you're giving the light, or the mind, the brain, this sensation. It's working to interpret it. And as it's doing that, it basically allows itself to just kind of come down, take a step back, come down, and then try to process this. And while it's processing this, it just allows all kinds of, good things to happen in the mind. So not only the psychedelic visual, experience, but that's where that, that you have that empty space to, work on your creativity. Your mind just kind of blooms and opens up. And so I don't know if I mentioned it before, but it brings you to a state of what we call hypnagogia or hypnagogia. So that's when you're awake and falling asleep. You pass through this state naturally every night or anytime you take a nap. And then when you wake up, you go through a state of hypnopompia. So when people wake up in the morning, they hop in the shower and then their minds just kind of open up and they start processing things. Those are those states that are key liminal states in our everyday that, once you cultivate those states, your mind changes. You feel better about yourself. You can process information better. And the light helps us do that basically by just allowing the white light to pass through. It almost goes through the prism of our mind, which creates this color, these fantastic worlds within our mind that you can actually look around. You can look up, down, squint your eyes. You can do all these things that actually just change the experience under the light. Another thing you mentioned was you've got 4 people. When you guys came in, I had the setup so we can do 4 people at a time. I can also do the single. But when you have 4 people that are maybe family members or good friends or in a relationship with that connected experience, I think there is something special that happens. You've got folks that report having some of the same visions under the light, or coming out of that experience together and be able to talk about it and drive home and have a meal, or just talk about what those experiences were and what they meant to you and how they changed you. I think it's also transformational for people.
Well, I have to agree with you 100%. That's why we did so many of the therapy sessions. We were getting something out of it. We did, like, as you said, we talked about the experiences we had while under the light, and how it was affecting us in the next morning, and things like that, and how we seem to be improved versions of ourselves. For anybody that's listening to this, we talked about, kind of a state that you're passing through in and out. What should we, if they were concerned about being able to drive after this therapy, what are your recommendations for them?
Yeah, so there's no downside effects. I will say, unless you have light sensitive epilepsy, then that you're contraindicated. It's not the type of thing you should do because it is stroboscopic light. So that's not something you'd want to do. But for others, really, you're about to, once you come out, we talk, we debrief, I let you relax and, share your feelings if you want to. But by the time, you walk out of the door, you're in a good relaxed state, but you're not, inebriated. You're not, there's nothing holding you back. So you should feel great as far as visually, your sense of vision is still there. Yeah. And I do like to say, if nothing else, then when people go home and they're driving on the roads, especially here in Houston, they're that much happier. So there's that less chance of road rage happening. So,
okay.
Yeah. So no downside effects. For a lot of people, especially after their first time, or if they've been coming, for successive sessions within, let's say, a month, you might feel like your mind has been to the gym and had a little bit of workout. It's not a headache or anything like that. It's just like a little pressure, like something is happening in there, and it's something's been activated, and it's kind of like it's a nice type of pressure.
Well, the bad part of that is like going to a chiropractor. Some of those joints, that they work on and stuff, you don't know how bad they are till they, flexed them and popped them and put things back where they're supposed to be. Mm-hmm. It's kind of that way with your session. So once you get started, you kind of need that. It's almost addictive, not quite. It's not really addictive, but it's something like exercise. You go to the gym every day and you do that for a month or so. Pretty soon you're on a routine and your body expects you to do that. Mm-hmm. And if you don't do it, you don't feel right. Yeah. And this is sort of the same thing. It's, with your body and everything involved, you get used to this stimulation and this therapy, and you want more of it, because, well, first off, it does feel good. It does make you more alert. It does make you think differently. It makes you more creative. It has a lot of benefits. And once you're experiencing all these benefits, you really, I don't know, how often do you think somebody ought to come in for therapy? What's recommended?
Yeah, the recommendation to start off would be, first of all, an hour session. So we do 30 minutes and 60 minutes, but given it's your first time, I take people through the demo. We do a lot of talking. So 60 minutes the first time through. And then the recommendation is, within 4 to 5 weeks, coming in for 4 sessions. And then after that, you can slow it down, do 30-minute sessions, or maybe just once a month to reach that baseline. But the benefit of actually coming back and trying it again and having that experience imprinted in your mind is you can actually start to practice and work on generating the hypnagogic state on your own every night when you go to bed. for myself, I've been doing it a number of years. So, if I'm having a restless or sleepless night, I can try to recreate some of those visual patterns, which allow my mind to go down into that state. It's a very lucid, dreamlike state. But through time, through experience, you can actually, with your eyes closed, work on, trying to recreate some of those visions and just drop down into that state. So if you're not coming to me, you have all the tools within yourself to actually be able to do that for yourself, and work with that.
Well, I don't know how expensive these lights are, but I would assume that an individual person could be able to buy one and set one up if they, if they had the money to do it. I don't know what they cost or anything. And I'm seeing over in the chat that Danny says several sessions were very beneficial to her and she wants to come back again. So, and I know I'm on board, and I would bet you that Katria, probably, I don't see her listening tonight, but she was one, and Pam Oakes was one that came with us, I believe. I bet they would be willing to come back also. But once a month is not too bad. So, I think you can kind of be looking forward to us coming back here before too long.
Yeah, love to have you guys. One development since you guys would have last been here. So the creators, they made a home portal, they call it. So a smaller version, a smaller unit that's more accessible from a price point. I want to say it's maybe about a third or a fourth of the cost of the practitioner system, which I have. So a single person can lay under it at a time. And I think for that one, you really do have to be laying down. It's got like a little pillow. But that one's just from a cost perspective, it's still, still pricey, but it's a little bit more attainable for people.
Well, I take my hat off to you, your wife, your family, for spending the money to purchase this thing and to go into business and offer it to the public here in Houston. And I'm glad you are here. I'm glad you are still going, and I hope that you continue to go strong. Now, my daughter has she's got a therapy group that she's doing too, and I might mention you to her and what, as we talked about before the program, and see if she might be interested in retaining your services in some way. So anyway, we'll see where that goes too. But in the meantime, Danny, who is in chat, and myself, we certainly rubber stamp this as being one of the best things we've done as a group. It did help us become more unified, and it made some of us real closely knit. I believe that us all laying there under that light with our heads together. I mean, top of my head was, the top and sides, we're all almost touching heads underneath this light, under the tripod that is over our bodies. And it really, I think you were aware of the people around you. And I think it did, the closeness of the minds, I think it did do something to help us unify as a group a little more. I can't swear to it.
Yeah.
No proof, but I believe that we benefited from it in ways that y'all don't even talk about. So I would certainly recommend this treatment to anybody. And you don't have to go to a psychotherapist or something to get recommended for this, but I would certainly, for safety's sake, talk to your doctor, maybe make sure that you can go through the flashing lights on your face and go through the therapy session so that it's safe for you, that you don't go into epileptic or seizure or something like that. And if it's safe for you, I'd recommend that you go and do this, and I'd do it this month if I were you. So that is my recommendation, Terry. And I thank you for joining us. We're at 25 minutes here, not quite the 30 minutes, but I think we've talked about everything. Is there anything else you want to bring up?
No, I mean, I would just say that, for anyone everyone's on a journey, everyone's on a path. And whether that's, seeking enlightenment, seeking the paranormal, seeing what lies, beyond the, this life into the next, whatever it is, even those that are looking at plant medicines or psychedelics, there's always a journey that people are kind of going through. So for me, the most rewarding part is being part of, a person's journey, and getting to, connect with them, understand where they're coming from, where they're trying to go, and really be a part of that facilitator. So, it brings me joy to be able to share the light with others here in Houston. And I've had people travel from out of town to come and check out the light. So it's just, I just feel really blessed that people are willing to give the light a shot. And it really says a lot about someone that they're willing to try this new technology, try this new thing, and see what it does, and see what the benefits could be. So just happy to share it. That's my mission. And again, thank you for letting me on your podcast.
No problem. By the way, as far as the light goes, if somebody wanted to buy one, they can contact you and you would help them with the purchase. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah, I can facilitate that.
Okay. And of course, before they go and spend that kind of money for a light, they probably ought to go through a few therapy sessions to make sure that that's, what they want to do. So they need to contact you anyway.
Yeah. And that's what I did when I first tried the light. I was like, okay, this is very cool. Let me go and, do a 30-minute session. I'm like, all right, now it's still very nice. Let me bring my wife over. So we drove over to Austin, checked out the light. And even after that, I sent my mom and my brother over to make sure I wasn't crazy, so I wanted to make sure I was fully vetted before I jumped in and spent the money. So, but it is a great tool. It's, it's part of my family. I actually look forward to my kids growing up a little bit older and then being able to go under the light themselves. So it'll be good.
What age would you say people need to be to go under the light?
Yeah, so generally 18, but I've had parents come in with, as young as 14 under the light.
Okay. Well, some kids at 14 are more mature than some at 20.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, okay. Well, I guess it depends on the kids and their parents and stuff. Well, Terry, I want to thank you for joining us tonight. I'd like to thank anybody that tuned in. I hope that this was a presentation that enlightened you a little bit. That's a pun.
Like it.
You benefited from tonight's podcast. I hope you'll be getting a hold of Terry.
Thank you so much.
More about it. Do what? Danny, did you have something? Danny?
No, I think she was just sharing thanks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So anyway, I'd like to say good night to everybody. Thank you for catching this program, or whenever you catch it, whether it's tomorrow or tonight. We'll catch y'all next Sunday for the next one. Next Sunday is supposed to be Joshua Shapiro with the Crystal Skulls, which should be an interesting podcast also. I don't know if everybody knows about the Crystal Skulls or not. But anyway, that's what's on next week's schedule. Thank you all for attending. Good night, everybody. Take care.
Good night.
Goodbye, John. Goodbye.